watching Tacoma Working Mom TV. I'm Rosie, your host. This week I interviewed Marilyn McKenna, wife of former Attorney General Rob McKenna. Marilyn has a super inspiring story, over 120-pound weight loss story, and now she's challenging others to do the same and conquer emotional eating. Watch this. Here today, Marilyn.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad you could come.
Yeah, you are such an inspirational person to me.
Thank
when I
you.
found your blog and your Twitter page first, I got really excited because I wanted to meet you and do an interview with you because of your 120-pound weight loss, which I think is really amazing.
It's almost a whole person.
It is a whole person. Those people, size 4 people, that is a whole person.
I was happy to leave her behind.
Yeah, exactly. So what I think that most people would want to know is, why did you finally lose the weight? You'd had it on your body for so long.
I did.
What made you make that choice? What finally clicked?
Yeah, and that's a good way to describe it. I think, well, first off, I mean, I'd been a fat kid. I, have 4 kids, so put on a lot of weight with each child and kept way too much of it, and eventually found myself more than 100 pounds overweight. I'd been morbidly obese for more than 20 years. Turning it around was, something I thought about every day. It was something I wished for, prayed for, hoped for, every day. And yet it just, I tried every conceivable diet, and usually on a Monday morning, and then by 10 a.m. I'd failed already because, I got hungry and it all came crashing down around me.
And you said, I'll start next Monday.
Right, and then,
You have to start a diet on a Monday.
I always did for some reason. I don't know why. I'm kind of a perfectionist. So anyway, so what happened was, I found myself in 2007, more than 100 pounds overweight, working a very demanding full-time job, the mother of 4 very busy children, a husband who was working all the time, and I felt like I think many women do, that even though we chose all of these things, we're being pulled in so many directions. We're not doing anything well. In fact, I felt like I was failing at everything. And when I looked at it, I realized that my weight was kind of at the center of all of those bad things. When I had this, that clicking moment, that aha moment, as Oprah calls them, that it was this wonderful experience. But in fact, it really wasn't. It was much more like what I can only imagine might be rock bottom.
Right.
And when I finally stepped back and looked at it, what I realized was that there was really only one way to go, and that was up. It couldn't get any worse. It really couldn't. And that thought was kind of freeing in a way. I describe it as kind of a surrender, not in a religious sense, but more in an emotional sense, in that I finally realized I wasn't alone. There's no special prize for losing weight alone. We place so much emphasis, I think, in our culture on the, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and rugged individualism and do it yourself and all that. It's just baloney. What difference does it make if you, if you do it alone or whatever that means, or don't? In consultation with my doctor and my family, I had lap band surgery that year in 2007. And it really was an amazing tool for me that I was able to maximize. You still have to make all the right eating choices and exercise choices. It really has the weight loss has transformed my life in a way that I never could have even realized beforehand. So the having the surgery was the catalyst, but what I really did was I took that opportunity and I just ran with it. Literally in my situation, because I've become a marathon runner.
I know, which I strive to be. I've done 4 half marathons.
Good for you.
And I am trying my best to get a marathon under my belt.
And it happened to me slowly. I didn't, start out 120 pounds heavier running. I was walking, and I found walking long distances to be really so good for my soul. When people tell me that they can't find time to exercise, and I'm very sympathetic with how hard it is when you're busy and everybody else's demands and stuff. but it really is such a great time to really put things in perspective in your life.
Yeah.
So
and
love
you can
it for
make
that
time
reason.
for it. You can make time for it. You did.
Well, we all have 24
kids,
hours
job.
in a day.
Exactly.
So
I saw this mug, and this mug says, you have the same amount of hours in a day as Beyonce.
Yeah.
Right? And look at Beyonce.
Oh my gosh.
So if she can do it, we can do it.
Wow,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And we all can do it. We really can.
And one thing you said in a blog post was that being overweight happens in the context of families.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I said I was an overweight kid, right?
Yeah.
I was, and 3 out of 4 of my own children experienced weight issues, which is pretty common in the late middle school years.
Yeah.
But one of them wasn't outgrowing it as many do, and I didn't outgrow it either.
Yeah.
And it was clear to me that there was more going on than just growing out before growing up kind of thing.
Right.
With that child. And so what I mean by it doesn't happen in that it happens in the context of families is that overweight and obesity don't happen in a vacuum. We learn our eating behaviors as children. Mm-hmm. Whether it's through the family that we came from or the family we've created,
right.
we are establishing eating behaviors every single day. And not just eating behaviors, but the way that we think about our bodies, the way that we talk about, do you use language like I'm so disgusted with myself, with,
right.
I skipped another workout, or, oh, I'm so bad because I ate, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And those messages are, the kids are obviously, hearing everything that we're saying and taking
right.
all that in. It's so important that we model not just good behaviors, but positive thoughts about ourselves.
Positive self-talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of hand-wringing about childhood obesity, but what we really don't do is a lot of this positive role modeling for children. So when I found myself with my son, who was 11 at the time, he was obese, when I found myself in that situation, I realized that I really had to establish myself as a leader in our family for directing, our food choices and helping him learn about proper calorie intake and going out and having fun and doing fun things as a family.
Right.
So it started with our pediatrician. Mm-hmm. I called him ahead of time because I said, I have this issue, and I need you to be on board with how we're going to deal with this. Yeah. And he was fantastic.
That's
so
good.
What he taught me, what our pediatrician taught me, and then I was able to teach that to my son, was that by showing him the trajectory of his own weight and age over time, he could see that where he was headed, that trajectory was not a good one, but we had the opportunity to turn it around, and we really could seize control of it and do that. So we dealt with it in a way that kind of removed the emotion and the judgment from it, and replace that with a very matter-of-fact kind of approach.
Yeah.
So we did a calorie counting program. Yeah. Really, really simple. You can do it, with apps on your phone. We actually did it on paper.
Wow.
And he and I, for 16 weeks, both wrote down all of our food choices, everything from the, mayonnaise on our sandwiches to, to the snack bar after school. And what happened is that he then internalized a lot of the lessons that we were learning along the way. Mm-hmm. We would keep running subtotals during the day so that he could see for himself, if he had a half a cup of corn for dinner instead of half a cup of green beans, that means he has 50 less calories to sort of spend, on maybe a dessert or something.
Right.
And so he learned to make those choices for himself. It wasn't me hovering over him saying things like, oh, you really shouldn't be eating that, after what you just had for dinner, because all that does is teach them that it's a shaming
Right.
right?
They're internalizing that shame
Oh,
for
and
what
it's
they're
so
eating.
painful.
Yeah.
And it just causes all kinds of psychological issues that we just don't want for our children.
Right.
And even if we're doing it for good intention, it's not the way that they hear it, right? They hear that they're bad, that they can't be trusted with these choices.
Right.
And so a lot of times it leads to hiding and, that kind of isolated eating behavior, which can be so negative going into adulthood.
Eating when they're away, when they're alone.
Right. And so instead, we just kind of laid it all out on the table and so this is what we're going to do. So he's now 14 and a normal weight for his height. I think there's so much that we can do as parents. We are there horrible food choices out there that they can make, or are school lunches less than ideal? Is it too bad that they don't have enough time in PE every day? Yes, all those things are true. But is it also true that we have an incredible and unique opportunity as parents to lead them towards health?
And what about emotional eating? I know you have a book coming out called Eat Like It Matters.
Yeah.
It comes out the end of this year.
Because it really does matter.
It does matter.
It does.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, what I've been writing about recently, this is tough stuff. But what it really comes down to is that I became an emotional eater for a lot of the reasons that I was explaining, that what could have happened to my son. I internalized a lot of the shame and the guilt of negative emotion, and then food became my coping mechanism of choice to deal with stress and anxiety and all that kind of thing. And so I carried that into adulthood, and eventually not only does the emotional eating become a problem, but of course then it leads to obesity and all the related health issues to that. It's really about finding a reason why this matters to you and lighting a fire inside yourself so that you really want it. Because
otherwise it's not going to happen.
It isn't. I mean, I was just writing about in the blog about walking through the food court at the mall, and what I call the food carnival, right? Because it's like an amusement park, and it's just coming at you from every angle. And if you're an emotional eater, the pull of everything.
That
it's
smell
so enticing.
comes inside.
That's it, isn't it? The smell.
The smell.
And Cinnabon is the one I always use as an example, because the smell, it should be illegal.
I know.
It's so
I know.
good,
Do they
right?
pump it through the counter?
I don't know what they do.
With the air blower?
It definitely sets off all kinds of nerve synapses in my brain. So and so I think when you're overweight and obese, even the pull of those things is that you almost have no reason not to give in. Because you've tried every diet. I had tried every diet. I saw no hope for being able to have success at weight loss. So why not? I was so busy and stressed out and frazzled, and I felt like this was, it was a small pleasure I could allow myself that would make me feel better right now. And so, in some ways, it's amazing we're all not fat, because it's right there. It's so accessible. It's on every street corner, and we're told that we deserve all this. Right? And so what I found, though, in losing weight was that I do have a reason not to eat it and not to indulge in it. Eating it every once in a while, I mean, that's fine if that's what people want to do. But it had become a daily thing for me, where I would indulge in this kind of self-soothing type of behavior. And so what I found, in that moment of darkness when I knew that my life, could only get better, was that that gave me that hope to hold on to. And when I looked at then what I had been doing to cope with stress and anxiety and all those negative feelings, the food, not only was it not an effective coping mechanism, but it was creating all these other problems that created more stress and anxiety for me. I've had to relearn a lot of behaviors and habits even things, really simple things like, you're tired at the end of the day, you walk in the house, the first thing you do, you throw open the refrigerator, right?
That's for
you're
dinner.
Starving.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you are hungry,
right.
but you're also starving for something else, just to be calmed and to be soothed in a way. And so, so rather than heading for cheese and crackers and, a soda and that kind of thing, which would have been my go-to before, instead I get out, I have bags full of veggies. I mean, and I'm not talking like bell peppers that I chopped up I'm a path of least resistance kind of person. I get the snap peas and the baby carrots and the little mini tomatoes and the things that are already all prepared. All I have to do is
small, and you put them in a bag.
And hummus if you want to, and a gigantic glass of water because it's so important to stay hydrated.
I love what you say about it happens in the context of families, because I think it's so important to set a healthy example for your kids.
Yeah.
And you're really paving the way for them as an adult.
For them and as an adult and what they're going to teach their children. But it really does take action on the part of parents.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing a great job. And you are so inspirational to me. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Tacoma Working Mom TV. To learn more about Marilyn McKenna, her blog, her videos, and her book coming out at the end of this year, go to marilynmckenna.com or go to tacomaworkingmom.com and follow the link on my blog. See you next week.